You're listening to an interview taken from the Tonic talk show and podcast, heard exclusively on Zoomer Radio. To download or listen to the original episode or other episodes of The Tonic, please visit thetonic.ca.
Greg Lindberg is an entrepreneur, philanthropist, author turned wellness advocate. He attended Yale University, where he completed his bachelor's degree in economics in 1993. He's acquired and transformed more than 100 companies that were either failing or underperforming and are now worth billions of dollars. His experiences and challenges as a business leader inspired him to author 2 books, the first being Failing Early and Failing Often, How to Turn Your Adversity into Advantage, published in 2020, and 633 Days Inside, Lessons on Life and Leadership, published in 2022. For the last few years, his mission has been focused on helping people reach their ultimate potential through wellness, longevity, and leadership, housing all of these initiatives under his new brand called Lifelong Labs. Welcome back to the show, sir. How are you?
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So last time on the show, you kind of threw this out, right? We were talking about fasting, and you were telling me about the exercise that you were doing during fasting, which really surprised me because, you know, in my brain, I'm thinking if you're fasting, it's incredibly difficult to exercise. So I thought I'd bring you back today and we'd sort of like unpack a lot of that, and you can explain how the two are sort of symbiotic and how it helps. Does that sound like a plan?
Absolutely. Great plan. Happy to do it.
Okay. So how does exercise play a role in your health when you're fasting?
It's really, really important. So to get the benefits of fasting, you have to move the body from a glucose metabolism all the way to a triglyceride metabolism, where you're actually burning your body fat to get all the cascade of genes that are released that repair your body and make you younger. You have to persist all the way through to the triglyceride metabolism. You know, the body has evolved over a very, very long time, millions, if not hundreds of millions of years, to burn glucose. So when you burn glucose and you stop burning glucose, your liver actually makes glucose for a little bit of time. So even if you exercise hard for the first day or two of a fast, you're still burning glucose. I find, looking at my own biorhythms, it takes about 2 days to get through the glucose metabolism all the way to the triglyceride metabolism, and that's with 2 pretty hefty 2+ hour workouts.
So let's talk about your workouts for a bit, man, because 2-hour workouts, that's a lot. And this is coming from somebody who exercises like 5 times a week on top of walking at least an hour, hour and a half a day. What kind of stuff are you doing?
I think the most important thing to exercise is to do something that you enjoy, to be out and about a little bit, and to get some natural sun, some natural photons coming into your body, and to be highly varied in your exercise. Any exercise you do, if you do it over and over again, is not going to do nearly as much good as changing it up, and is actually a real important interplay between your brain and your body. If you get out and run one day, and you swim the next day, and you hike the next day, and you maybe do the Stairmaster the next day, and you lift some weights, change it up dramatically. I try to do something different.
Yeah.
Almost every day to really change it up.
Yeah, I do as well. And you know, your body has like muscle memory, right? So
Exactly.
like doing arm curls over and over again. First of all, you're only isolating certain muscles, but also your body almost compensates and learns a rhythm that stops it from breaking down the muscle, which is what you really want to do, so that it repairs and gets bigger.
Exactly.
So why is it so important to exercise during fasting, though?
Well, exercise burns up your sugar in your body quite quickly, especially cardio. In the beginning of my fasting routine, I did a lot of weights, and it wasn't burning. I could tell I wasn't getting to that ketogenic triglyceride metabolism fast. It was taking me longer, so I started to do cardio heavy in the first couple of days of exercise. And then there's a miraculous thing that happens if you do cardio every day. You start to like it. You get a little addicted to the endorphin rush.
For sure.
And all the pleasant hormones that exercise produces, and you start to feel better. So I want that feeling again. So you do your exercise again. So cardio is absolutely critical to burn that sugar up.
Do you find, like, it's called the runner's high, right? Like, I think that's what you're talking about. Do you find that high is more necessary or more pronounced through fasting? I'm asking because I don't fast. Like, is there a difference, or is it just part of your routine?
It's the same. However, it's more important during fasting because fasting, of course, you're starving.
Right.
And it's very painful to not eat. And the runner's high, the endorphin buzz, whatever you call that exercise feel-good mentality that you get when you exercise, particularly cardio for at least 30 minutes, that covers up the hunger pains. It's amazing. There's two things to get through a fast. Number one, sleep. You're not hungry when you're asleep. Your body has all kinds of programs to shut off the hunger pains while you sleep. And number two, you're not hungry when you're full of endorphins. Your body shuts those off. So I try to sleep and exercise as much as I can to get through it.
Okay, so does the body react differently to exercise when you're fasting? Or is it the same sort of process?
It does react differently. It's much harder to get started. Of course, you don't have that sugar kick.
Right.
When you're full of sugar, your body has immediate energy to burn. Your electron transport chain has that immediate access to glucose. It doesn't have to convert the fat. So it's faster. Sugar is very fast energy. However, once you get started, interestingly enough, very good question, once you get started, 3 or 4 days into your fast, you have better physical performance. My absolute physical best performance is 3 or 4 days into a fast. Believe it or not, if I was a competitive athlete, I wouldn't eat for 4 days before an event.
Wow.
You wouldn't have an off-the-block starting time that was fast, but your endurance is off the charts. My Stairmaster time, just a simple thing like a Stairmaster, I can do maybe 30 minutes at a particular volume level. At 4 days, I can almost double that. It's just you have an amazing endurance when you're burning your triglycerides.
Okay, so as somebody who is exercising when they're on an empty stomach, can you sort of go through a little bit of the psychology? Like, how do you push through? How do you push yourself when you're hungry? Because I know I don't feel like working out when I'm hungry or fatigued. You know, it's probably the best time to do it, but psychologically, it's a tough thing to do.
It's the absolute hardest part of my week is to get going. And I try to find something pleasant, like, oh, today it's a beautiful day. I can take a little run. And then once you get going and you start to get some endorphins, the hunger goes away, and you start to get the blood flow and you start to get into your exercise. Starting is the hardest part. Once you're 30 minutes into it and you're into it, it's easier to keep going. But I try to do something that's not so difficult, like just sitting in the same treadmill, in the same room, in the same gym, whatever. Change it up and make it interesting, and then challenge yourself intellectually so you don't notice the hunger and the physical challenge. I listen to a lot of audiobooks when I work out.
For me, I play this little psychological game, which is I work out because I can. Right? Because right? There's days where you're more motivated than others, right? For whatever reason. Either you have an empty stomach or you don't, or maybe you're fighting a cold, or maybe you hurt yourself and, you've got some muscle tweaks. I know as a certainty, and I'm sure you feel the same way after the workouts, you're always happy that you've done them, right? Like no matter what, however much you don't want to do them before, when you're done, you're happy. But it's that little trick that I play on myself. Well, I try and imagine not the moment, but I kind of think forward. How am I going to feel after I work out? And that's usually the thing that gets me going. So I don't know if that helps you, but that's what I do.
That's a wonderful trick. Any kind of visualization, any kind of looking forward to an event. I look forward to my feast. I visualize that. Anything you can do to get started and visualize that feeling of peace that comes over after you exercise.
Okay, so that's
not easy.
Yeah, no, it isn't. So that's the short run. Let's talk about motivation over the long run. What's your advice there?
I think it's really important to have long-term goals. One of the things that I did is I tested my telomeres 5 years ago, and I just retested them, and they had increased dramatically in length, which is a clear sign of rewinding the biological clock of the body. And that is an incredible motivator for me in terms of I have a lot of daily pain. In fact, I have a list. I look at it every morning, and it's called my weekly progress map. And I just go through a list of things that I think are getting better little by little by little. Progress comes in one step at a time in your life, in your business, in your career, your profession, your health. All these things that we go through as humans to progress our lives forward, it's like a baby, your child growing up. They move very, very slowly. If you watch how a baby grows and a child grows, it's very slow. But that's how we grow. So we have to think of things in baby steps and then celebrate the small wins as long as we know we're on a progress map towards where we really want to be.
And I think the frustrating thing for a lot of people is it's never linear, right? Like, so you can have like great sessions, great weeks, great months, and then inexplicably you can find yourself slipping back, and it's nothing that you've done. It's just reality, and you have to be able to sort of reconcile that, I think. So
exactly.
I know what exercises I like to do. What do you like to do? And I'm looking at this in the canvas of your fasting. So what is copacetic with fasting?
My favorite exercise is cardio when I feel good at the end of a cardio workout. And my challenge is finding enough different cardio that doesn't hurt my knees. And if you run every day, your knees are going to blow out. If you do Stairmaster, you're going to get too used to that. So finding enough different cardio. So I find I've got an elliptical, I've got a bike, I've got a rowing machine, a treadmill, and then exercise. So it's 4 or 5 different pieces of equipment, which I got this little $300 elliptical, and it's great.
Yep.
And so you can, for fairly inexpensive piece of equipment, you can vary your workout.
Yeah, I have a spin bike and I have a rowing machine and a treadmill. Because of my knees, I can't do the treadmill so much, but I love the rowing machine. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. I get that runner's high that I can't do anymore because I also have a partially torn Achilles. So I exercise 5 times a week and sort of change it up, and that's my schedule because I have to allow for some rest. Is that materially different than what you do under your fasting exercise regimen?
Jamie, that's a great question. Exercising every day is not the best strategy. You really need to take a day or 2 off. You're doing absolutely the right thing. I have challenged myself to take a day off, but I've become so addicted to the endorphin rush, I have trouble taking a day off. But it's absolutely better to take a day off, if not 2 days. Let your body rest and recover and your muscles build.
And, when you're talking about 2 hours, I think you threw that number out with your exercise. Are you doing like vigorous cardio for 2 hours, or are you mixing in sort of other stuff like yoga and movement and walking? Or like what makes up your 2 hours?
That's a good question. So I try not to do more than half of it as cardio, and then the rest will be weights. I'll do planks. I'll do some TRX moves. I'll do sit-ups. So really highly varied, preferably body weight exercise, although sometimes I like to pick up the barbells and those kinds of things. So highly varied weights for the other hour.
Okay, so for those who are intrigued by the concept of fasting and exercising, what are reasonable expectations for results?
I think a reasonable expectation is you can get off most of your meds, if not all of your meds, within the first year. I mean, that's an aggressive goal, but it's absolutely achievable. I was on very heavy-duty Mirapex, which is a kind of a pre-Parkinson's dopamine agonist treatment, and I was off it completely within a year of starting my fasting routine. So it had completely changed my health outlook and my life within the first year.
And realistically, when can you start seeing results? And I appreciate that's kind of a loaded question because some people are starting from very poor health and some people are average, et cetera. But in your experience, based on what you've seen?
It depends. That's a great question. It really depends. If you want to do one dramatic 7-day fast and you're healthy enough to do that, you'll see results at the end of that 7 days. A friend of mine did a 10-day fast.
My God.
He had very high blood pressure. He was on very high dosage of blood pressure medicine. He had significant weight to lose, and he chose to do a 10-day fast, and he went from ultra-high blood pressure, being treated by blood pressure medicines, to completely normal blood pressure in one 10-day fast. So it can be very dramatic.
Okay, so I'm going to be candid with you. When I hear something like 10-day fast, my alarm bells go off and the red flags go off, and I want to sort of touch upon safety issues, particularly with respect to like fasting and specifically with exercise during fasting. What are some of your safety protocols?
It's very important to stay hydrated, and then towards the end of the fast, if you feel yourself getting dizzy or anything that's a sign of low electrolytes, you should supplement with electrolytes. There's a lot of salts and magnesium and potassium powders you can put in your water to regenerate your electrolytes. Important to consult your physician if you have any health issues that may prevent you from exercising or may prevent you from fasting. It's important to check in with that.
Do you advocate getting a personal trainer?
I find it much more peaceful to work out alone and let my mind wander and listen to an audiobook. But for a lot of people, personal trainers are excellent. They help them establish accountability. It's someone to be there with you and make sure you get it done.
Can I add a safety tip of my own? Would you mind?
Please.
So there's difference in pain, right? The dull ache that you get from lifting weights is one thing. But I think, any sharp pain, you got to consider, you have to stop whatever it is you're doing and deal with that sharp pain, right?
That's exactly right. That's an excellent point. And I'm glad you mentioned that. As you feel yourself getting into the exercise, and if there's any pain at all, you got to switch the body part. You're overworking that body part. That body part needs some rest, and you got to figure out a different exercise. If it's an elbow, then you've got to move to some other part of your body.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.